Welcome to the Game Informer Show, weekly podcast about the video game industry. Join us every Thursday for a discussion about the latest gaming news, reviews, and exclusive reveals. I don't think we have any of those today, but, maybe in the future we will. Alongside Game Informer staff and special guests from around the industry. I am your special guest host this week. I'm Kyle Hilliard. Alex is a busy man, so I'm stepping in for him this week. I am joined by Charles Harte.
Hello, I have an exclusive reveal. I had a smoothie for breakfast.
And that was on the cover of Game Informer magazine?
It will be, yeah, next.
Okay.
Just a blurry picture of me drinking a smoothie today specifically.
You got to subscribe to see what flavor is what we're going for here. Okay. Brian Shea is here.
Hello, no exclusive reveals, but I'm happy to be here, however briefly.
Oh, that's right. We're going to kick you out this early on. And then, of course, Blake Hester.
I have an exclusive reveal.
Let's hear it.
They canceled the rest of the video games. They said, we're not so good at making these. No more. And they turned them off. They turned off all the servers, unplugged all the computers.
Who flipped the switch?
Mario.
Whoa. He was like, we are not so good at making
these. Here was the fault with the video game industry. They made it all one switch. So it didn't take him much time. He just turned that off. Luckily, the power...
There are three Switch models.
Oh. And that's the heat we're bringing today to the Game Informer podcast.
Exclusive reveals.
So just like even single player games I can't play anymore?
None. Your Shadow.
What about my SNES Classic?
No, definitely not that. No. They're all
because Mario said so.
Mario said, "Hey, have you seen what they're doing in these things? So violent."
Oh, wait. So it was Charles Martinet's Mario voice, not Chris Pratt's.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Who in the Mario multiverse?
It's weird that they got Martinet to record like dialogue in advance of shutting down all the video games. They're like, let's bring him into the studio, have some lines ready to go about how video games are bad now.
Yeah. So violent.
Oh gosh. All right. Hey, so this week we're talking about Marvel's Midnight Suns, which Shea, I believe you've been playing.
Yeah, bit by bit. Yeah, it's a fun game.
Cool. And we'll say more than that, I think. We're also going to talk.
Bye.
That's it. Bye. We're talking a little bit of I'm going to try to get the name right here. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, which I've been playing. Blake, you're shaking your head. You don't want to hear about that?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. I want to talk a little bit more about Scarlet and Violet before we just never talk about Pokemon again, ever.
Nice. That time.
And then, we'll check in on what everyone played over the break. I got a special segment, and then we'll answer some questions. So let's start with Midnight Suns. Brian, you've been playing it. This is Firaxis's new strategy game with Marvel characters.
Yeah, so I was a part of the team that did the cover story, like coverage hub. I believe Ben Reeves wrote the cover story, who now, oddly enough, works at Firaxis.
Yeah, they're like, this is good. Why don't you just write the game?
This guy knows his stuff. And but yeah, I was on the team that kind of saw the game, got to play it before it was even officially announced, and I have now played about 4 hours of the finished product. So Matt Miller is handling our review. Unfortunately, he is not available to record today, so you're stuck with me and my 4 hour long reviews here. But Matt is handling the actual review. But with Midnight Suns, they're taking kind of like it's half like the XCOM formula, half like card battler, where like every character, like you have a hand of cards, you draw cards each turn, and you have a hand of cards. Each one has like certain energy that you can use. It is kind of interesting that this comes out on the heels of Marvel Snap, which also uses kind of like the card based, and you have energy that you can use. But each character has different like number of actions they can do over the course of their turn, and then as you complete certain actions, you build up heroism, which can be used to unleash certain attacks that require heroism. And it's all like, positioning based and turn based strategy, and yeah, I'm having a really good time. But outside of the battles, which I think the battles are probably the highlight, but there is like this like social element where you build friendships, because you're playing as like a custom Marvel character that you've created called the Hunter. And it's like this ancient character who had defeated Lilith, who is like kind of the mother of demons that Hydra has resurrected as the main antagonist. And basically you are brought back to life by a team consisting of like a lot of the supernatural heroes. So you have like Magic, Nico Minoru, Blade.
Wait, you said Magic?
Yeah,
that's just
Magik. She's actually an X-Men character, but she uses supernatural abilities. But it's a bunch of like supernatural side of the Marvel universe, but also there's a lot of the iconic characters because theoretically they want to sell copies of this game. So there's Iron Man, there's Captain America, there's Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and a few others that I won't spoil. But yeah, I'm having a really good time with it. You can go around and like they're basically in between missions. You can go around in this this abbey that is in there, and that it's like this big like haunted mansion type of deal, and everybody's staying there. And you know, you can go and hang out with the Marvel heroes that are on your team and build friendships. And the stronger your friendships, the more effective they are in battle. If you max out their friendships, you get like exclusive abilities for that character that they can use in battle. So there is some utility to the friendship component and like the social elements of it. But from what I understand,
you're playing as the Hunter. Is
yes,
that your name?
It's a customizable character, everything from gender to looks, but like it's not like a super in-depth character creator.
But are you like walking around like
yes.
third person? Okay, that's not like XCOM, because XCOM is all about just like bouncing
menu-based
between like sections of the base and stuff.
Yeah, kind of think like Mass Effect Normandy in terms of like the navigation, but not like, I don't know, it's not, so far at least, it's not that in depth of like going around and like having that many nooks and crannies to explore. Like in the Normandy, there were so many different rooms you can go in. This one, it seems like there's a few different rooms. There's like an outdoor area where like you'll find like Blade and Captain Marvel and Ghost Rider training, and then there's like the indoor area where you can go to Iron Man to get like new gear crafted, or like you can upgrade other gear with like different enchantments by going to Doctor Strange. So like there's also like a hangout area where you can go spend time with people, and like there's like little cutscenes where you'll watch a movie, or you'll play, there's references to NBA 2K, oddly enough, because this game is published by 2K. So, like, that's one of the...
Wait, what is the reference to NBA 2K?
Well, that's one of the activities.
About microtransactions and stuff?
They should, because that's all that game is turned into at this point. But no, they're like, one of the characters early on makes an argument, like he's like playing, he's like, oh yeah, when you're down by X amount of points in the fourth quarter, and da-da-da-da, and like, obviously that's the only sports license that 2K holds, so they're not referencing
I'm
Madden.
fascinated by this. Which character? You're being secretive about it.
This was the new Ghost Rider, Robbie. So he's like
Ghost Rider is talking about NBA 2K
in his human form, yes.
Okay.
But
Weird.
yeah,
All
Nico
right.
always wants to watch movies. I don't know what movie. I haven't gotten super deep into it. Like, it's still introducing a lot of the main characters. I know there are some characters in the main cast I have not met just based on my time with the game and like marketing. So I don't know how long it'll be before I meet them, but I've put about 4 hours into it, and I have a good feel for at least the gameplay loop, and I've completed probably like 5 missions so far. There's a lot of like dialogue and everything that you do go through, and I've gone through a lot of like the tutorials around the Abbey. So there's there's a cool story behind it with like, you know, Hydra kind of bringing this demon thing back to life, and it's trying to take over the world now, and there's a lot of like villains in the Marvel universe getting corrupted. So like, you know, we've seen Venom is this corrupted version of Venom that you have to fight that's like under the control of this demon god woman thing.
So on the spectrum of fighting a bad guy versus fighting a portal in the sky, we're on the bad guy spectrum of the Marvel sort of storyline.
We are fighting bad guys, yes.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite Midnight Sun? Is there any who either in battle or just in interacting with that you're like, this is a good character in this game?
Oh man, Blade is fun because there's certain moves have a quick ability where like it like you look at the card and you can see like, all right, well this will have like knockback damage, or like, so you can knock enemies into like obstacles or into each other and like deal extra damage, or like inflict status effects. Like I knocked a Hydra minion into like some sort of like electrical thing, and it stunned them for that turn, or it deals extra damage if you hit them into like an explosive barrel or something. But the quick designation on a move means that if you KO an opponent with that move in that turn, it does not cost an action. So that allows you to take extra moves, which or extra actions, which is really helpful. And Blade has a few of those, as well as some other cool abilities that like apply like bleed to characters and stuff like that. But Captain Marvel's
Blade gives
pretty...
bleed? Blade gives bleed? Blade gives bleed.
Blade gives bleed. It's
three
very
times
difficult
because I couldn't say it right.
It's very difficult to say now that you're saying it out loud. But yes, Blade gives bleed. And Captain Marvel's pretty strong, but the Hunter, I'm not a big fan of the character of the Hunter because, like, they're just kind of...
Well, you created it, Brian, so this is your own...
I didn't create their personality, but, like, they're just kind of stoic. They're just kind of like the blank slate of, like, the player avatar. It's not really, like, a whole lot going on with their personality, so far anyway. But I enjoy, like, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange going back and forth on, like, you know, tech versus magic and things like that. And Tony's obviously, like, way out of his element because he's, like, all about, like, technology and not magic. So, like, there's all, like, he's, like, kind of, like, unsettled being in, like, this mansion that is obviously very haunted. So, yeah, there's fun.
Are you playing on a grid? Are you moving spaces, or is it like, are we talking more like Mario Rabbids?
I think it's kind of like Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Like, there's obviously, like, it's more freeform. It's not grid based.
Okay.
But yeah, you're, like, moving a cursor around, and you can only actually move one character per turn. But then because the actions aren't really based on proximity. So, like, if you wanted to attack a guy from across the map, you could. But if you're wanting to, like, get away from, like, an area of effect attack that, like, so Venom has an attack that's, like, takes one turn to charge, but it shows you, like, hey, anybody in this circle is going to get hit by this attack. And so I had 2 of my 3 characters in that circle, so I had to be like, all right, well, this character can probably absorb that attack. This character's pretty low on health. I'm going to move them out of there. So you have to kind of be strategic in that regard. But usually the positioning is more based on, like, all right, well, can I get knocked back into something, or am I going to be attacked by an AoE attack?
Is this out? Do you know?
It is out this Friday.
It's out this Friday. Okay. And Brian, you have to choose right now, Midnight Suns or Mario Rabbids for 2022.
I mean, I've played so little of each. Like, it's hard to, like, really
make your decision based on your limited experience with both games.
I mean, I like Marvel.
Mario, there it is.
Marvel stuff I like a lot, but I think Mario Rabbids might be the more sound strategy game. But again, I've probably put the same amount of time into both games. Like, I think I played like 4 hours of Mario Rabbids, and I've played about 4 hours of Midnight Suns. Because my time has basically been Street Fighter, straight into Sonic Frontier, Street Fighter for our cover story, straight into Sonic Frontiers review, straight into Pokemon for review. So I have had very little time to play any of these games. It's just like here and there.
Right.
But you said you wanted to talk Pokemon.
I do. You know what? I let's transition to Pokemon. Let's do it. Two things were interesting to me. It is the best launch weekend sales in Nintendo history is the news report.
In Nintendo history.
Nintendo history.
That's according to GameInformer.com's report.
Oh, fake
that I copy pasted in this document.
misinformation. I can't trust that.
Which is wild. It's so funny. Like, because the game, it's like, if you had the outside perception of that game right now is just like, I feel like mostly disaster. I feel like everyone is just sort of talking about how broken it is. And it's just wild that it doesn't matter.
I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to a different podcast by a different outlet full of other grown men who play Pokemon. And, you know, they were...
This American Life?
Yeah, that's right. This American
Okay.
Life. Eyreglass, huge gamer, historically. Sorry, I guess sidetracked remembering, like, how good that show is on almost every front except video games, where Eyreglass is like, hold on, games can make
So
you
press
cry?
a button, and how does that make you feel?
Games made you cry. More after the break. Stay with us. You're not going to want to miss this. Anyway, great show. Shouts out to Ira.
Let's keep talking about This American Life. The lesson I learned from that show is you ask a person a question, right? And then you ask them how they feel about that question. And that's good interviewing, baby.
Here's the thing. I've engaged with a lot more This American Life in the recent past than I have Pokemon. So so I was listening to this other podcast, The Besties by Polygon, better than This American Life.
Good show.
Of course. And, you know, the grown men on there were like, oh, it's a disaster. How's Pokemon keep getting away with this?
Thank you for identifying them as grown men.
Yeah.
You have to specify
right. That's
as
right.
opposed to the not grown men.
But what they did was they had one of the McElroys, they had his daughter on to talk about it. She's like really young. And she's like, the game's fun. I don't care about any of this. And I was like, oh, that's it. Like for us, it's like, oh, how could they release something that's so broken? And for their audience, they're like, Monster is fun and cute, and it's like,
Yeah, like
does it actually matter? It's like, yes, it probably does. You shouldn't release a broken product, but also like, is the actual target demographic, which is going to make up the most of the consumer base, if they don't care, does it really matter? It's like a weird ethical dilemma.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I even wanted to talk more Pokemon, which is funny, is like we've talked about on the show quite a bit, and my reaction has kind of been like, I've run into some problems. But it's Pokemon, it's fun. But like over the last week, I have gotten sucked into the point where I have, like, this is a weird qualifier, but like I used to review Pokemon games at Game Informer. I was like the Pokemon guy. This is the first Pokemon game that I am excited to play and finish that hasn't been given to me as like an assignment. Like every time if a Pokemon game has come out and I haven't reviewed it, I have happily played the first like half hour and been like, you know what, I'm good. But this one, I've been really having a good time with it. I'm like really kind of surprised.
I guess that's what I'm curious about. As someone who's not gonna play this game, I'm not a Pokemon man.
You're a grown man.
Yeah, I'm 28. Listeners at home, no time for these children's games. Are we forcing the technical issue conversation? Because it sounds like you're also in the camp of, it's fun, I just want to play it. Is it like, how much of this conversation is not worth having when the game is just fun and you want to play the fun game?
I mean, Brian talked about a lot in his review, which I'm sure you can talk on more, Brian, but like those technical issues should absolutely be acknowledged. And like it's a bummer.
Oh, okay.
But like the things that they gain from being so experimental about this entry, I think are almost worth the sort of the occasional frustration that you encounter with the bugs, because it's not even like the game's breaking for me necessarily. It's just that it's like, that doesn't look good. That looks rough.
Yeah, this is one of the most fun Pokemon games I've played, and like the way I framed it over and over again, because believe it or not, people have issue with me scoring it like lower than Sword and Shield, but high enough that they think that it should be just a 0 because it has bugs.
What did you
By the way, happy
it?
to not get those emails anymore.
People have reached out to me about this, and the way I always frame it is a good game that is brought down by its technical issues, but not defined by them.
What did you score it?
I give it an 8.25.
People need real problems in their life. Do not email us about score. That's ridiculous. Brian, I'm sorry you have to deal with these idiots.
But I stand by that score because, I mean, it's easy to look at a highlight reel of glitches on Twitter and be like, oh my god, this game is so broken. But, like, it is. It has a lot of technical issues. It's not, like, a very polished game, and it got docked for that. But at the same time, I'm not going to just sit here and ignore, like, I didn't have a freaking blast with the game. Like, it's some of the most fun I've had all year with video games, but as a critic, I also have to acknowledge those bugs, and hence why I brought up that it's maybe it's probably the least technically proficient Pokemon game ever. And they do need to fix that stuff. Like, the pop-in is terrible. The frame rates really start chugging in some places.
And there was one Pokemon that killed me, and I was like, come on. Get out of my way.
Like, literally killed you, and now
literally killed you?
Resuscitated, and
That's
now
not a
you're hosting the
legitimate
Game
criticism.
Informer show.
By the way, that was just a joke. I was in an area that I wasn't strong enough to be in, which is cool. It's cool to say that about Pokemon.
But I had a really good time with the game, and I think that the technical issues should be talked about, but like that shouldn't be the only part of the conversation. Yes, Pokemon has, like, Game Freak has not updated its animations in the way that it should be. I talk about this on All Things Nintendo all the time, where I'm just like, why does Final Fantasy X have better, like, battle animations than Pokemon? And Final Fantasy X is 21 years old. And, like, Pokemon is the highest grossing entertainment franchise on the planet. Yeah, there's plenty.
Best launch weekend sales in Nintendo history.
And by the way, I looked it up. Pokemon Sword and Shield, the last mainline game that had 2 entries, because some people would be like, oh, well, it's because a lot of people bought 2 copies. It's like, well, Pokemon Sword and Shield had a $6 million or 6 million unit launch weekend. So it's not just because there are 2 copies of the game. It's because that a lot of people were excited for an open world Pokemon game, and they should be, because overall it's a good game, but there are some problems with the technical side.
I think about this all the time. Like, Pokemon being as big as it is, why do they not give Game Freak like God of War budgets?
I mean,
it's like It's ridiculous to me that
They probably do. It's just like it seems like they just want to keep like a lean development. So we've asked them like, why is your development team so small? And they're like, oh, we like having like a lean development team. And
sure, but like, there's no universe where Pokemon. What are these Pokemon games? I don't know their names.
Scarlet and Violet.
They but they feel like kind of budget titles. It's just crazy to me that Pokemon can be the biggest entertainment property in the world, and then they come in like held together with duct tape. You know?
No, I agree.
I think it's a
It's weird.
good point also of like we're debating this and it doesn't matter. Like it
Right,
makes me
yeah.
almost feel weird to be a critic, and like when I was playing I was like, wow, I almost feel conflicted that these technical issues do really bother me. I was kind of bummed that I got, like, I'm very new in the industry. One of my first codes I got to advance was Pokemon, which is like my favorite series. And the first hour I was like, wow, this game is so janky. But I haven't stopped playing it as much as I feel like I think it should be better. I'm still going to play it and people are still going to buy it. And it's a weird thing of like saying, well, you know, this is the last straw. And now they're going to have to, you know, test their games more, but also it sold the most, so maybe, you know, next game they'll test it less. Like I feel like there's as many opinions as we have, it doesn't change the fact that they're very, very successful.
And also it's worth noting that when I reviewed Pokemon Legends Arceus, my biggest criticism of that game was the technical prowess of it. It was poorly running, and then Pokemon Scarlet and Violet runs even worse. But like I don't know how to like reconcile that, because again, like Charles and Kyle have said, we're all three of us are having really fun times with it.
Yeah.
And Blake, you would too if you opened up your inner child a little bit.
Yeah, Blake.
Sorry, I play man games like Call of Duty.
God of Call of Duty.
I'm playing God of Duty, God of Pooty.
Oh. Well, anyway, Pokemon, kind of broken, kind of great. Also sold a lot. That's the sort of the thesis statement of that discussion.
Yeah, what do you think Game Freak cares more about? What critics say or them dollars, baby? What do you think they're concerned about?
I mean, I don't think they care what we say, but
Right.
I bet they care about general reception.
Right.
You know, like I bet those, like I would think that they take that to heart. I mean, speaking with them on occasion, you know, there's when I did the history of the series with them, Masuda talked about like one of the toughest times for them was when they saw a decline in like the popularity ahead of like the release of the next game, and that kind of stuff scares them. So, but yeah, the scores, I don't know. Do they care about that? Who knows?
I mean, unless there's like, again, some bonus tied to like Metacritic score, because, you know, remember there was a time where a lot of developers and publishers were doing that. But like, I mean, outside of that,
I don't think they do that anymore.
It seems like that has fallen by the wayside, or at least not as publicly advertised as it once was. But yeah, I think money is the main motivating factor for all these companies. So I think you have your answer right there.
No, they're making it for the love of the game, for our entertainment.
The rapper, the game.
That's right.
They all love the game, and they're wanting to make him happy.
Exactly.
As long as he's happy, they don't care what the fans or the critics say. The love of the game.
Brian, do you want to peace out?
Yep.
You want to head out?
Not a moment too soon as I start talking about mid 2000s rappers.
He's still around.
I mean, that was my cue.
Yeah, but that was when he was at his peak, you know.
Nah, the best is yet to come for the game.
Okay. All right, well, this was fun, Kyle. Good job.
All right.
And Blake
See you,
and Charles,
Brian.
I will miss you dearly. Goodbye.
I live like 10 minutes from you.
But you're in Kentucky right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, you
And
can hang
meanwhile, Brian, I'll never see you again. So
Okay.
I'm
yeah,
only
fair
like
enough.
45 minutes from Charles right now, actually.
that's true.
Oh, interesting.
Come through, roll through, hang out with me and my mom.
Skyline.
Yo, let's do it.
I don't know if we've stopped recording or what, but I'm going to go.
Yeah, you
All right,
go.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God he's finally
Don't
gone.
have to talk about baby games anymore. Time to talk about
Yeah,
Leisure
let's
Suit
talk-
Larry.
Let's talk about
Man time.
a game not for babies. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion.
That's for man babies.
I
for-
love an unnecessarily long title so much. I need you to know
You're not going to like him much longer working with character counts at
That's
Games
fair.
Over Magazine.
Yeah, you're gonna get
I
really
know-
creative coming up with acronyms for video games.
I know all of the titles of the Fast and Furious movies. Never seen one. I've seen Hobbs and Shaw because I thought it seemed stupid, but like just the fact that it's so convoluted is so endlessly fascinating to me. Of like, why can't it just be 2 and 3 and 4? Why has it got to be Crisis Core and then Final Fantasy and then 7 and then Reunion? What? Is there another Crisis Core? It could just be Final Fantasy Crisis Core.
There is technically another Crisis Core.
Okay, but what does elaborate on the technically part for me?
Well, it's the PSP game. Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII was a PSP game, and Reunion is the remaster, PS4, PS5 version, which I'm reviewing, but honestly, I don't have a ton to say about yet. I'm not super far. We did a new episode of New Gameplay today, Charles and I, where we talked about it. It's a weird thing. It's a weird game to play. It was pretty clearly made for PSP. The structure of the game, just with the way missions are doled out, they're very quick, and it's weird to play that on a PlayStation 5 where you sit down to play for an hour and you're like, oh my god, I just did like 20 missions, or something like that. But it looks good. The combat looks good. The funny thing is the pre-rendered cutscenes that they're just pulling from the PSP game look kind of rough. So it's funny because you'll see this pre-rendered cutscene with like really great hair physics that looks kind of like low resolution, and then the gameplay starts and it looks a lot cleaner and at like 60 frames per second, and it's like an odd side by side there. But yeah, I am not the biggest Final Fantasy VII fan. I've never beaten the original. I did play the remake and mostly enjoyed it. I didn't like the ending, but that's why there'll be a sequel, so they can retcon that whole thing, presumably.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, which I guess the whole remake is kind of a retcon, but that's sort of its own complicated issue that we don't have to get into here. But it's interesting to play it as someone whose main interaction with Final Fantasy VII is the remake, to play this prequel. I'm actually genuinely kind of excited to learn what the deal is with protagonist Zack, because he was kind of teased at the end of remake. So it seems cool so far. The combat feels good. It's not quite up to the tier of 7 Remake, which has fantastic combat, but it's definitely like you can see the sort of tweaks they made to get it closer to that. So far, so interesting. I'll have a review on the site soon. Let's see. I wanted to check in with you guys and see what you played over the break. I ended up playing mostly Pokemon, which I was surprised about. Blake, what did you play over these last couple days off?
Nothing. It's my break. I'm not playing games.
You don't play games for fun?
No, not really.
No.
You're playing Leisure Shoot Larry for work?
That's right. Magna Cum Laude, baby, the best one. I've never played a Leisure Suit Larry game. No, I did not play anything over the break. I brought my Switch and I just didn't touch it. But before the break, I've been playing that Immortality, one of the best games probably I've ever played. At least one of the best games I've played this year.
Ever played?
Dude,
ever?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's incredible.
Better than Tony Hawk's Underground 2.
I didn't
good.
say it's the best game ever made. I said it's, Jacob Geller, who, no one knows who that is.
An adult man who appears on other podcasts.
I hate to even bring up his name, but he has said one smart thing in his life. He said it feels like one of the most mature games ever made. And part of that is
we've established earlier are the only games that you play.
Hold on. And part of that is there's a lot of nudity and cussing. But the other part is it feels like a very maturely
ESRB.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yeah.
Nudity, cussing.
There's so much nudity in this game. It's out of control.
And this is why you think it's one of the best games ever made?
I'm going to tell you why I think that if you stop interrupting me. Another part of that is it is a very mature story that I feel like, honestly, even in your Last of Us's and your God of Wars, fine games in their own right, they're not really mature stories. They're kind of just iterated old classical style stories, and this game's very obsessed with auteur theory and kind of performers' roles within creators' lives, and it's just a very interesting take on kind of passion projects and how people use each other in the name of art. There's a lot of heady ideas that I don't always think it's the most subtle with. Sometimes the game has the subtlety of a brick being thrown through the window, but it's also interesting that it's even tackling these topics, and the way the game is structured, where it is FMV and it's telling the meta narrative of 3 different movies all wrapped up in this other 4th story that you have to follow, and the way the themes of the movies and the game itself all intertwine to kind of unpack what Sam Barlow seems to think is the role of a creator or the abuses of creators and why we should dismantle these systems. Like, it's a very fascinating game to me. I think it's too damn long for what it does, but I am just endlessly fascinated with it. And I think the leads, all the actors in the game, are just out of control. I don't know any of their names to shout them out, but just, I don't know, go to the IMDb
Man
page.
Engage is the
Man
main
Engage.
one.
Yeah, she's great. I really like the there's a blonde guy who's really good. The main director. They're all great. It's awesome. And then other than that, I've been playing Call of Duty.
Just multiplayer, I assume.
Yeah, they have such an interesting business model over there at Activision Blizzard, where they put out, as we've established, Call of Duty is basically 2 to 3 games wrapped into one. And they always launch the campaign first. And I think that's interesting because it's always some of the worst garbage ever made. And then they follow that up with nonstop heaters, dude. The multiplayer, they put Shoot House in this piece. And if y'all saw me in Shoot House, you might fire me.
What Shoot House?
It's a classic Call of Duty Modern Warfare map. It is just this tight, compact map where,
Why is it called Shoot House? Is that not
bro,
every map in Call of Duty?
come to the house and find out why it's called Shoot House. You'll learn.
That's a threat.
It's
Whoa,
like this
it
tight,
is.
compressed map. You kind of
It's
have
different in Kentucky.
you have like almost your 2 end zone areas, where you spawn on the far sides of the map, and then a central kind of mosh pit area, as they might call it, where everyone kind of collides into each other. And so there is no, there are a couple camping spots, but for the most part, because of how necessitates you be very aggressive, you're constantly running into the face of other players, shooting a lot of close quarter shootouts, which is different than some maps where there's little hidey holes you can kind of camp your way through. There's some maps in Call of Duty you can go wild without actually seeing anyone or being spotted, and Shoot House is it's nonstop mayhem. It's not as crazy as a shipment map, which I think is gonna maybe come back into this one, which is hyper condensed map. But they put that in there. I've been going full toxic gamer mode. They have they have a playlist that is just Shoot House, and I'm not playing anything else. No other maps, just Shoot House.
I do love those maps. Like in Halo 2, Midship was always my favorite because it was just you're always going to be able to see somebody and you're always going to be in the thick of it. There's no sprinting to the middle. It just cuts out all that flack, which I that actually, it's funny. I haven't touched the multiplayer for Call of Duty in years at this point, but weirdly, the idea of just going into a very condensed map and getting some shooting in quickly.
Dude.
Maybe I'll actually give that a try.
I'll load it up before bed sometimes. Just drop a quick 30 bomb on them. Log off for the night. I'm done.
A 30 bomb?
Yeah, that's when I get 30 kills and I'm at the top of the leaderboard.
Is that a phrase that people say, or is that
that's
a
phrase
thing
I
that Blake
say?
says? We're bringing it. We're doing it. We'll put it in the
I'm
headline.
so glad you're here to interrogate these things, Kyle, because Blake says them with such conviction that I'm oh, surely I'm the idiot for not knowing what a 30 bomb is.
He's been bragging a lot about being a grown man. But I'm
true.
Truly, I'm the next level. I'm old man. I'm a dad who's not playing Call of Duty.
How old are you, Kyle?
I don't know, 30s, late the 30s or something like that. Someone asked me that recently, just a stranger just trying to learn more information about me after they asked me a bunch of personal security questions, stuff like that. But they were like, "Oh, how old are you?" And I just reflexively, without thinking about it, I was like, "Oh, I'm 27." And I was like, and I was like, "Wait, hold on. No, I'm in my 30s. Where did that number come from?" I guess I just never felt like I aged past 27. But anyway,
I'm also playing Warzone 2. It's great.
With the
cool.
audio so you can hear people nearby.
That
right?
stuff
and
is
it's good.
So cool. Yeah.
Is it really? Because a lot of people have been complaining that it leads to hearing just insane vulgarities and just offensiveness all the time.
I mean, yeah, that's a Call of Duty staple. You get what you're signing up for there. You know what's funny is in Modern Warfare, the 2019, they made a big deal. They were like, we're combating all the racism in here. We're getting rid of it. And what was wild about that was it was overnight that stuff was gone. And I was like, oh, you could have done this 10 years ago. You just didn't. You just know your base is mostly these people. and so you didn't.
What is
want
it?
to
Is
make
it just
the
like
map.
people getting banned for
Yeah,
using bad language and
usernames,
stuff? Okay.
stuff like that. Like it was just
Oh.
overnight. That stuff was gone. It was awesome. It was
They
so
30
great.
bombed it.
Yeah, that's right. It was so great. And then it was like, great, Call of Duty's cleaned up its act. This is cool. And then they put out the next game in 2020 or whatever it was, and it was like immediately back. All the racism, all the terrible stuff. I was like, oh, you flip the racism switch back on. We learned it would take you less than 24 hours to clean up the game and make it nice for everyone, and then you said, nah, don't worry about that. Anyway, all that stuff's back. I'm having a great time reporting players for their horrible usernames. But the proximity
it's a game
chat
in itself.
yeah, it's great. I love it. The proximity chat is crazy because honestly, I haven't run into that much toxic stuff with it. Like, there's a moment in the lobby where the proximity chat flips on for every single player in a Warzone match, which is insane because it's 150 people.
That's how it used to be for PUBG.
Yeah.
Like when the very first one started on the airplane, it would just be a cacophony.
Yeah.
And then they probably smartly turned that
it's
off. Yeah.
insane. But when you get like pretty deep in a match, like, you know, maybe 20 people left, so you're not running into many people, and that proximity chat starts going off, dude, it feels like a horror game. Like when you're just like, there is someone here. Am I going to make the calculated decision to let them know I am here too? Or am I going to mute my mic and try to like Sam Fisher this? Like, and they have a thing where if you don't have a full team and there's someone else without a full team, you can then recruit them. So like in a 3-person squad, you can create like a 6-person team and all win together. It's not a thing where it's
okay.
like,
Wait. So you run into a group of like people on the map and you just talk to them with your human grown-up man voice.
Yes.
And you say like, hey, do you want to team up? And if everyone agrees and they don't shoot each other first, you can become a team.
You can recruit them. Like you have this like
That's
tense
cool.
moment where it's like, is someone going to betray me? And if not,
That's
like
wild.
you recruit them and the game recognizes them as a team member, and then you don't have to ever turn on each other. Like you can win as like a, 5-person squad in the 3-squad game mode. You can't do like full, say you're playing like 3-player squads. I don't think you can do a 6-player squad. Like it has to be teams that are kind of like maybe a person died or dropped the game, so it maybe like caps at 5 or something. But that stuff is really cool. Or just like, friendly trash talking. Like I haven't encountered anything too bad with the proximity chat, where it's just like someone will hear other people talking and they're like, yo, I'm coming to get you. Like, where are you at? Like, that's really fun. It's really engaging. And so far, it, again, hasn't been too bad. I'm sure a lot of people are running into terrible stuff. It's really cool. I think it adds a lot to Warzone, and I love Warzone. It's probably like a top 10 favorite game for me. And this has like completely makes it feel new. Like, and there's a bunch of like new features and mechanics that are also cool. But the proximity chat is the thing I'm like super into right now, and can't wait to get home and play more.
I did not expect to walk away from this podcast kind of wanting to play Call of Duty.
Duty's
Honestly, I
good.
enjoy Call of Duty. I have a good time with Call of Duty,
Yeah.
but it's kind of lower on my priority list of games. But might play some Warzone 2.0.
Call of Duty's good. Love Call of Duty, and it's free. Well, Warzone.
It's free.
It's free.
Well, Warzone's free, yeah. Charles, did you play anything crazy over the break?
Play anything crazy? No.
Any average game experiences?
Average game. Pokemon. I did beat Pokemon. We already talked a bunch about it, but the ending of that game is so wild, and I didn't expect it to be wild. And most of the game is like, very Pokemon tutorials of like, go here and talk to this person, now go in here and learn about the Pokedex or whatever. And this last one really feels like a mission in like a RPG. Like it I don't know, it feels so much different. And it was one of those things where I was so immersed in it, and then also Pokemon kept spawning inside walls and rocks. So every like 5 minutes, I would just be like, "Oh, that's right. This game is how it is."
Wait, real quick, do you have to do every path to kind of get this ending that you're talking about, or is it like?
You do, but it's not. Yeah, and the way the game was marketed at first, I thought it was like there were like 3 paths you choose, but it's really like you kind of just do all of them because you need to do it to explore the map.
Yeah, I was surprised. You just kind of naturally are on all 3 paths simultaneously. Except for me, I've been like beelining to the Titans because you unlock the special abilities. So I want those first. But might as well hit up a gym while I'm in the zone.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And I think the Titan story is one of my favorite ones. But I played that. It's good. I've already shared my experiences about that. I think I hit 17 hours in God of War this morning, which I'm very much enjoying as well. It's very long and it feels long, but I don't mind it. It's one of those things where I'm like I remember it took me so long, not saying it's as long as Persona 5, but it took me so long to bite the bullet for Persona 5 because I was like, oh my gosh, this game is so long, I'm never going to beat it. But once you actually like sit down and you're like, oh, this is just like a habit I have of I'm just going to keep playing this game for a while. It just feels nice. It's like watching a really long sitcom or something like that. And in God of War, I'm approaching with the not like I need to rush through and get to the end because I'm invested in the story, but I kind of just want to, ride around on my boat and see
Take
what this ghost has to say.
What up, Ghost?
Also I played the other God of War is one of my favorite games. I'll always have entered for the story because that's the thing I'm most interested in. And then I'm caught off guard by like the mechanics of like, oh my gosh, this gameplay is so fun and not what I was expecting it to be in some ways. So yes, that was also Fortnite. I always play Fortnite.
Oh, yeah. I love Fortnite.
Excited for the world to end in Fortnite this weekend. I only started playing with no build mode.
I didn't know about any of this.
Chapter 3 ends December 3rd at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, I hope I'm home for that. I'll have to play it on my dad's Android if not.
Is it on Android?
I think so, yeah.
It is?
Yeah, well, that's the problem. It's not on iOS, but it is on
I knew
Android,
that.
right? Yeah.
For some reason, I thought they also had an issue with the Google Play Store, but I am incorrect.
Yeah, I'll have little Fortnite spikes because my kid will get into it occasionally, and then I play with her. But like, yeah, I'm not. I did buy all the Dragon Ball stuff. I've bought like 5 things in Fortnite. One is Kratos because I just thought that was so bizarre that I was like, I gotta have Kratos. And Mimir's on my hip, and he's running around with a gun. Like that's just insane. And then I got all the Dragon Ball stuff, and that was about the height. That was the max of my microtransaction purchases because I like Dragon Ball so much, you guys.
I've only spent money on one thing in that game, and it was Goku, which I immediately regretted. I wanted Bulma instead, and
you should have just got the whole pack or whatever.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
sorry for suggesting you save a couple bucks.
They only got one from me. And I picked the wrong damn one.
Yeah, at least get Vegeta. What are you doing?
No, I just want Bulma. Now I'm still playing as Goku, and I'm like, I could be Bulma now.
I could be Bulma. Yeah. She's the best. She changes the game, Blake. Like, if you'd had Bulma, it would be a better experience.
You know what game we don't talk about enough? Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. That game's good.
Yeah, I played the first couple hours of it. That's what I want from anime games, honestly.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, you're right.
I didn't finish it. I didn't finish the Boo Saga, but I played a ton of it. I got through Frieza and Cell, which was a lot of hours.
That's further than me.
Game's cool.
Yeah.
It's on Switch now. Maybe I should revisit it.
Oh yeah. It's okay on Switch. Game like that. It'd probably be all right.
Yeah, I mean,
I did buy the Breakers. Haven't played the Breakers yet, embarrassingly. Did the tutorial, the multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta play some more of that.
I played something else.
Oh, what's that?
Sonic Frontiers. Have y'all played this thing?
Yes.
I played 2 hours. Actually, my my brother and cousin came over and discovered a fishing mini game. Like I was like, yeah, you can just mess around in it for like 2 minutes, and then found the fishing spot, and I didn't know that was in it.
I want to unpack this with someone because I haven't talked to anybody.
I've heard a tease. The person that we mentioned earlier that we're not allowed to mention, Jacob Geller, teased to me your appreciation of Sonic Frontiers. So I'd love to unpack this.
I've seen people say, hey, this game's pretty good. And I've tried. And I think this game is dog water. Like I was like really stoked for this game. I love Sonic. Like love Sonic. And I think this game is like largely unplayable. Like I don't know what I'm missing.
That's harsh.
I don't know what I'm missing. Like I will load into it and be like, this is gonna be the moment I find the fun, and then I run, and then it knocks me in the other direction, or like I play these side-scrolling levels that look so cool, and then every 2 seconds it's like, what if you slowed down to a snail's pace? What if you stopped having fun in the video game? And that is my entire experience with this game, is sitting down like, I'm gonna have some damn fun rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go. It stopped me. It stopped my progress.
So are you hitting like bugs?
No, it's just like I'm just running into walls.
It does just feel weird. Kyle, have you played it?
Yeah, I played
Yeah.
like 2 hours of it, and I'm certainly like, it's that sort of Sonic asterisk that everyone
Yeah.
gives it, where I'm like, well, it's Sonic. But I was like, this is the most fun I've had with Sonic since like Adventure 2,
I know.
personally.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know if it's a me problem or a Sonic problem. Historically, it's always been a damn Sonic problem. But, like, I gave this game, I gave it a shot, and I just like it's been blowing my mind listening to other people talk about this game. Where I was like, this thing's kind of good, and I'm like, at what point is this game kind of good? I played like 3 or 4 hours of it, which I think is
Yeah.
more than enough time to figure out if a game is good.
And you got to like where it opens up a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
right.
But then
Because that's kind of where I enjoyed it, because it's like you just kind of jump on that grind rail and
Yeah.
you hit that loop de loop. Well, I don't think there's any loop de loops actually, but yeah. I'm sorry, Blake. I'm sorry you're having such a terrible experience.
the mission structure too was blowing my mind. It was like, hey, Amy needs a bunch of things out in this world. Go find them. So I spent all this time going to find them, and I was like, here you go, Amy. And then it turns out there's a different Amy hologram on this side of the map, and she needs another set of these little hearts I just found out in the map. I'm like, what are you doing? I spent an hour getting these just to find out this was not the only Amy hologram that I have to free. And then I finally free this one, and then there's a weird mini game where these little cute monsters are blowing up, and I have to herd them like sheep to their mom, but they're dropping bombs. I'm like, what the hell is this game? Where's the fun? What is anyone talking about? Why is Yuji Naka in jail during all this? Like, what?
Insider trading, to be clear.
It blew. I really had an odyssey with this game trying to find the fun, and I can't. But it's weird that Kellen Quinn does a song in this. He was really his band was.
Who's
really,
Kellen Quinn?
He's in this really bad band that like was really popular when I was in high school, and then I saw a video, and they're like, "This Kellen Quinn song's pretty good," and I was like, "Oh, it's not," but that's crazy. He's
What
in
was
this
the What was
game.
the band?
Sleeping with Sirens. And then there's like One OK Rock does a song in it, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's like a wild
actually into
soundtrack. Yeah.
I'm actually into the soundtrack of Sonic Frontiers, even though the sort of walking around, quiet, kind of tinkly piano.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like this. This is pretty sweet.
The combat feels cool, or looks cool, and feels like in theory would be cool, but then it's just like mash the square button and it'll look cool, but there's not really much interaction outside of it. Like, it's a bizarre game.
I think you've summed up Sonic games in general with that statement. It looks cool. It should be cool. But then when
Yeah.
you're actually playing it, you're kind of like,
I found my Dreamcast at my parents' house, and I'm gonna take it home and play Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 again. And like, I just think that's gonna be the way I enjoy Sonic in 2022. But man, what a journey I went on with Frontiers.
I'm sorry. I've been pretty positive on Sonic. I admittedly haven't gone back to it since Pokemon kind of sucked me in, and it is. I also played Sonic 06 all the way through on this very website, and like maybe that just you can only go up from there. So
you had a really good joke on that I think about a lot, where someone was like, "Hey, Game Informer's top 5 bridges list," and you're like, "Of Madison County." I think that joke is so funny. Think about it a lot.
Now I sound like I'm laughing at my own joke because I don't remember it, so it sounds like a new joke to me. Okay?
It's really funny.
Well, thank you, Blake.
Anyway,
for watching
that was my journey through Sonic Frontiers. I was so stoked for that game, and I just cannot enjoy it.
Charles, have you played it? Have you touched it at all?
I have. I'm somewhere in the middle of. I was playing it and I was like, this is fine, and then my God of War code came and I was like, oh, thank God. Not that. I don't know. I didn't hate it. I also didn't really love it. I have a mixed relationship with Sonic, or complicated relationship with Sonic, where I thought he was so cool when I was younger.
He is.
One of my favorite Sonic games. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying it's one of my favorite ones. Is Sonic and the Black Knight, because it came out
on the Wii.
On the Wii, it came out.
All right. 2
weeks before my 9th birthday. My dad walks into Toys R Us and says, "Hey, what's the game I can get my 9-year-old?" And they're like, "Hey, this Sonic game just came out." And he's like, "All right." And then he bought me Sonic and the Black Knight, and I was so bad at it. But Sonic plus a sword, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
This is when video games have peaked. Mario's gonna flip the switch and say, "We're done."
Absolutely. Also, Mario and Sonic the Olympic Games was like I think that was also like 2008 that was 2008 because it was Olympics. So that's my relationship with Sonic is like, what a cool guy who I haven't actually played any of his most iconic games.
That's funny. That's funny that that's the one that sticks out for you.
I like running around. I like, I really like running in a circle around an enemy. I don't know what it is. That really does it for me. But yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I don't want to take it away from people that like it, but it's not something I'm personally super invested in.
Charles, you gotta play Sonic Adventure, dude.
I was thinking it's like the Steam's autumn sale ends in 3 minutes.
Dude, go pick it up.
I think it's like $4 on.
You can raise your little chows and whatnot. I love the chows. If you have the Dreamcast, they show up on the little memory card screen.
The BMU.
Yeah, I that's what I'm most looking forward to playing this year, is going back to Minnesota and playing Sonic Adventure on my Dreamcast.
On this podcast, going to buy Sonic Adventure 2 because it is $2.50.
Let's go.
On Steam?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I have a Steam Deck.
Ooh, that was the thing in my head. I'm like, I have a Steam Deck. I think I need to have that on my Steam Deck console. All right, we got 2 minutes. We're gonna be able to pull this off.
While they're
Done.
doing
I don't
this,
want to add an
listeners,
authenticator.
how cool was the Dreamcast? They don't make games aren't cool anymore, listeners. Back in the day, video games were cool. They were doing weird stuff. This Dreamcast had like a little Game Boy, well, not a Game Boy, it was a Sega, but it had a little screen in the memory card that you would stick in the controller, and it would display little pictures while you're playing the game, and that was cool. Then you could pop it out, and some games would have mini games you would play on the memory card, which again had a screen on it, had a little D-pad, had a little buttons. Now they just make sad dads. But back in the day, you were this crazy little blue hedgehog, Mr. Needle Mouse, run around these human cities, raising your little jelly children called chows. Then you could play Shenmue. Don't even get me started on Shenmue. This was the most out of control thing 9-year-old Blake had ever seen. Shenmue. You had to play this game one day at a time. Will Wright could never. This game
another you could watch me play it in full on this very website.
I have seen it. You played it with Reiner. It was awesome. I love Shenmue. They had Space Channel 5 dancing game where you played this wild lady named Ulala. It was awesome. They just made a new one for PSVR a couple years ago. I haven't played that, but I think Matt Leone told me it was good. That's
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That's where I played that.
Right.
It was on Dreamcast.
Power Stone, Sonic Adventure 2, Nights into Dreams. Sonic had a card game, Sonic Shuffle, on the Dreamcast. That game was cool too.
I would assume that's a dancing game.
No.
I believe that it's a card game, but I'm picturing like a Sonic DDR. I have like no experience with Sega consoles. Like I was just too young for them, and then they died. And I think it's such an interesting thing.
They were the only company that made cool game consoles. Like the Sega Dreamcast, which had Jet Set Radio on it, which had that song Birthday Cake or whatever that everyone loves. John Lennon's son, the bassist of that band, Cheapo Matto. And they had a song on Jet Set Radio.
Wait. Okay, no, this isn't important. But John Lennon named his son Sean?
Yeah.
Or are you making... Was that
no, that's a real thing. You can look him up on Spotify.
That's so silly.
Yeah, he has
That's like if I had a son and named him Charles.
He has like a huge body of work. He was in Cheapo Matto, which is this like wild Japanese group. I think one of them went on to be in the Gorillaz or something. And then he had a solo career. He had a song called Dead Meat that was pretty good. And it's just John Lennon's son, Sean.
It's just the wrong name. I don't know why that bugs me so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Kyle, your kids' names are Shile and Grile. But...
That's right.
Lyle, yeah.
All right. Guys, keep vamping. I'm trying to buy Sonic Adventure 2 on
What
Steam.
else was on the Dreamcast, man? The Dreamcast. The wild thing about the Dreamcast is all the people who came out of it, they were doing crazy stuff. There's a really good Archipel documentary about the Dreamcast. I recommend finding. It's like a 2-part documentary series. They interview all kinds of people. I think the Rez guy, they talked to him. I think they talked to Nagoshi from RGG. Well, he's not at RGG anymore, but he was working with Yu Suzuki's team. He did like the racing game Virtua Racer. He worked on Shenmue as well.
Okay, shut up, Blake. I was able to purchase Sonic Adventure 2.
And RGG in a lot of ways feels like the spiritual successor to a lot of what Suzuki was doing during the Dreamcast era, which I feel like is kind of overlooked because RGG tries to downplay the Shenmue connection, but Yakuza just Shenmue sequels as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Blake, I have a new segment for the show
What's
that
up?
I jokingly discussed with you, and you
Yeah.
said, let's do it,
Oh.
half jokingly committing. So there's a new segment. Alex gave me the keys to the podcast.
Okay.
So this is a new weekly segment that he has to
Weekly?
do moving forward. Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay, you guys, I have a whole spiel written out. It's time for a new segment. Blake Hester has bad opinions. A disclaimer before we begin this segment: there is no such thing as a bad or wrong opinion.
Yes, there
An
is.
opinion is just a representation of how you feel about something. There is no objective wrong or right when it comes to analyzing art. It is entirely possible, however, to disagree with someone's opinion or to have an opinion that is not widely held by the larger population. This segment is only called Blake Hester Has Bad Opinions because it is a catchy segment name, and I fully acknowledge that the thesis is functionally broken from the outset.
Okay.
This week's topic: the late 90s new metal rap rock band whose debut album $3 Bill Y'all featured a rock cover of the hit George Michael song Faith.
Yeah. Limp Bizkit.
Limp Bizkit. How do you feel about Limp Bizkit, Blake Hester?
Jacksonville's own. Limp Bizkit. Fred, Wes, and the boys. Oh, Limp Bizkit's awesome. All right. And I'm ready to talk about this. All right. You know, all these crusty old men in their 30s, 40s. I guess in my dad's case, in his 50s now. They're like, oh, new metal. It was so bad. It was such a bad genre full of all these stupid dudes. Anyway, I'm going to go listen to Nirvana, the most boring band that's ever existed. New metal is so interesting for kids my age because when you were growing up, your parents were listening to all this grunge stuff, which largely sounds the same. Pearl Jam, Silverchair, Nirvana, Soundgarden. Like all good bands in their own right. Like there's some standouts in that. Like Pearl Jam whips. Like that band's rad. Silverchair is awesome. Nirvana sucks. Hole is clearly the better band of that whole thing. Foo Fighters has wiped the floor with, you know, Kurt's memory. It doesn't matter anymore. But new metal, I feel like back in the day, you had all these boy bands and girl bands out. Like music was so sterile and like it was just the same garbage over and over. And then new metal came out. And just sonically was so different and so interesting. Yeah, a lot of it has aged really badly. Like Limp Bizkit, like
Limp Bizkit, yes.
Limp Bizkit, had said their whole thing was very tongue-in-cheek. They were sarcastic. But I think Fred Durst pretty quickly bought into his own persona. But musically, the stuff was so far ahead of its time in terms of where metal would go and where hardcore would go in terms of down tuning and 7-string and breakdowns and using whammy and octave modulation. It was 2 decades ahead of its time before Sworn In and all those bands came out, and Varials and Knocked Loose, which all of them would cite Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, they were massive influences on us. I think for a kid growing up then who was interested in music that wasn't just Backstreet Boys or NSYNC, which were great in their own right, but wanted something different out of music, when you heard something like Korn's Follow the Leader or the one before that, I can't remember, Issues, or Limp Bizkit's Hot Dog Flavor Water, and you heard
to be clear, Issues came out after Follow the Leader.
That's right. Or $3 Bill Y'all, or Hot Dog Flavor Water and Chocolate Starfish, are definitely Significant Other, Limp Bizkit's best album, not just because they name dropped my hometown, Louisville, in the last song on the album. They were just very musically interesting bands who were really experimenting within the framework of metal and hip hop and kind of the cross section of that, which was not established with new metal. Public Enemy and Anthrax had that really big collaboration they did, and I guess to Run DMC and Aerosmith also had done some stuff. Anthrax had just done it a lot before Public Enemy, but they were just very interesting bands that brought more to the table, but were kind of just discarded for. Korn, I felt was discarded because they were kind of in touch with their emotions. People just didn't want to listen to Jonathan Davis be hey, I'm trying to unpack years of childhood trauma and abuse, and people are oh, it's stupid. He wears a skirt. It's shut up, shut your mouth. I'm sorry he didn't get up there and basically just sing pop songs with a distorted guitar like Kurt Cobain was up there doing. Also a man in touch with his emotions.
I was about to say.
Limp Bizkit,
in touch.
Limp Bizkit, unfortunately, had Fred Durst, which is his own bag of worms.
In touch with a hat.
But Wes Borland, is one of the best guitarists of the last 20 years. That dude completely rethought how to approach guitar playing. And I think bands to this day, bands that are blowing up, Like, Bring Me the Horizon, one of the biggest rock acts in the world, I feel like are just ripping off things Wes Borland did 25 years ago. Like, the way he incorporate, same as Tom Morello, honestly, where he's like, what is the cross section of heavy music, punk music, and hip hop? And how do I do that with just one instrument? How do I mimic samples? How do I mimic the rhythm sections on a guitar? Like, that stuff was so far ahead of its time. And it's like, yeah, and Fred Durst is also singing like, I came into the world as a reject. It's like, whatever. That doesn't matter. Everything around it, the package is so fascinating and so ahead of its time. And if you listen to any of the big metal acts today, you can identify like, yeah, there's the Korn influence, there's the Limp Bizkit influence, and the biggest one of them all is Slipknot. Like, that band's great. You cannot mess with Slipknot. The world has finally come around. It's like, yeah, Slipknot's untouchable. The best metal acts to ever do it. But like, I think equally as important is like what Limp Bizkit was doing, what Korn was doing. I mean, Drowning Pool to a lesser extent, maybe, if you kind of Sepultura as well, Jesus Christ, in terms of bringing like kind of more traditional music into it, because I think they were South American and they were using a lot of their home base as an influence. Or Armenia with System of a Down, like they were incorporating a lot of like Armenian influence and kind of like their home, where they came from, into that music and finding new niches within metal. That's why nu metal is one of the best genres that ever existed. It's one of the quietly most influential and most important genres of heavy music. But it gets thrown under the bus because Fred Durst sang a song about Nookie. Like, that's it. That's it. Like, everything else was so interesting. Yeah.
We got it. There you go.
And that's a good opinion.
That's our segment where Blake Hester tries to explain why his bad opinion is a good opinion. Limp Bizkit, the most important band of the last 2 decades.
Here's the best nu metal records, as far as I'm concerned. They're all your standbys, no surprises here. Significant Other by Limp Bizkit. That album is so sick. Issues was really good. I like that record. Iowa, probably the best nu metal record. And Toxicity, though that's not the best System of a Down record. Toxicity is definitely not their best, but I think by the time they hit Hypnotize and Mesmerize, they were less of a nu metal band.
There's a Pokemon, spoiler alert if you don't want to hear about different Pokemon, there's a Pokemon called Toxtricity.
Oh, that's cool.
In Scarlet and Violet.
Mm-hmm. And then a modern nu metal record that was really good, The Death Card by Sworn In. That was a good record. And it was
Toxtricity is from Sword and Shield, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Charles.
The Toxtricity of our city. Those are all the standbys. Just listen to those. Good stuff.
Cool. Well, tune in next week we got to figure out a new weird opinion for Blake to have, for him to talk a lot about.
Nu metal is so
I feel
in
like
right
I
now.
stumbled upon something you've really been needing to share.
Yeah.
You didn't have an audience for.
Are you all on my side now? Are you like, yeah, you guys is good points?
You spoke a lot about a lot of things, and I still could not name a single Limp Bizkit song.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm too young for this conversation.
They have that song "Break Stuff." You've heard that one. It's just one of those.
I'll say this,
Blake.
Blake. After this, I will go and listen to some Significant Other, an album that I admittedly listened to a whole lot when I was younger.
Oh, that record's so
good bass, great bass on
good.
that album.
I think it's
guitar.
Trust. I think it's the song Trust. That one's really, I like that one a lot.
Hey y'all, your editor, Matt, aka Stormageddon here, popping in really quick just to say that, in fact, Blake Hester has good opinions and that he is 100% correct on this specific opinion and topic. But now, back to the show.
Cool. All right, so we'll finish up here, and we'll do a handful of questions. You guys ready for these?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so Matt Stormageddon from the Discord asks, what is one game that came out this year that you are excited for, but no, you won't get to play until next year? For them, it's Midnight Suns. Blake, you're going to hate me for this, but it might be Immortality for me.
Yeah, you're going to look like a fool when we give it Game of the Year.
I have it downloaded on every platform I can, right? I have it on my phone. I have it on my Xbox. Haven't started it. Don't realistically know that I will this year. Not from like lack of interest or anything like that. Just like I don't know. What about you guys, Charles? Do you have one of those?
Mine is probably Midnight Suns. I've kind of had time to get around to everything that I wanted to get to this year. Midnight Suns I'm like kind of interested in, but not like crazy about. But yeah, it's probably my answer.
You got one, Blake?
I mean, I respect Matt thinking I'll play any of these games next year if I don't get to them this year. I probably won't. But
Sonic Adventure 2 is now on this list.
Hyper Demon That game seems cool, but I'm probably not gonna play it. I haven't installed, but
Hyperdemon.
it's probably just not gonna happen. And there's
Okay.
no universe where I would play it next year instead. So that I thought I was gonna play Metal Hellsinger, but like I just don't like that genre of metal enough to like
That
deal with it.
subgenre. Yeah.
And
Too
there was one more,
mainstream for Blake and I.
Signalis.
Oh yeah,
I played
This-
Signalis.
this was-
too.
This was the week. If there was ever a week, I was gonna play it, and I have not started it. So that's probably it.
That was one I started just randomly. I was like
Mhm.
going through Game Pass games. I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And I started it, and I was like 3 hours in all of a sudden. I was like, oh, guess I'm beating this one, which I did.
That's how I felt about Immortality, is I booted it up and I was like, oh, Marcus talked about this last week. This might seem interesting. And then I like I was gonna go grocery shopping to get stuff for dinner, and my girlfriend was texting me like, hey, you ready to go? And I was like, we're just gonna DoorDash. I don't feel I'm too
Oh, yeah, I've
invested
had
in this
those,
right
yeah.
now.
No, we're ordering
Um,
tonight because I've started
yeah.
playing this game. Yeah. Let's see. Jadonkadonk from Discord asks, it's beginning to smell a lot like video games. Certain basement smells remind me of the original StarCraft. What are your nostalgic smells that remind you of gaming?
It's beginning to smell a lot like video games. I read this question and I immediately had an answer, which kind of upset me about myself. Is when I was a kid, I've talked at length about it. The first game was Lego Star Wars. My brother and I would sit at the family computer, and it was right by the vent. So
Mhm.
when it was in the winter, it was hot air, and when it was in the summer, it was cold air. But something about the combination of like the computer exhaust smell with the AC is like instant Lego Star Wars. And I haven't gotten it since then because I don't sit in this specific combination of areas, but that's my
Right.
smell.
Yeah, mine it's actually more temperature than smell. When it starts cooling down, I feel like, oh, it's time to play Assassin's Creed. I don't know why.
It's when they come out.
I guess so, yeah.
Mine is this basement I'm in right now, which is my parents' basement because I'm back home, which just smells like, I don't know, a normal basement, finished basement, like carpet, dog, because we have a bunch of dogs. And it reminds me of Yakuza games because the first place I played Yakuza, which is my favorite series, was here.
Like you played the original PS2 one?
No, it was Yakuza 0. It was
it?
my
Okay,
first
okay.
one. And then right around that same time, because they came out the same year, I played Nier Automata, which was like a very big game for me. So I feel very wistful about those two games when I'm kind of in this basement. Weirdly enough, thought about that before hopping on this call, and I didn't see the question. Like it was just a coincidence walking down here. I think I've played every Yakuza game I've played in this basement.
Are you behind it all? Did you finish Like a Dragon? Like can you only play it while you're there?
I played Like a Drag. I played Lost Judgment in Minneapolis, but
Oh, okay.
but I
Minneapolis,
played
that's
all
the
the
B tier
yeah that's
RGG
right.
game.
Yeah, I just want the weaker ones. But yeah,
Cool.
try that.
Ace Killick, Cody Gibson from the Discord asks, was there a game this year that gave you that childlike feeling of awe and wonder? And if it wasn't this year, then what was the last game to do it for you? For maybe a weird, I don't know, maybe it's not a weird one, but like God of War is one of those games that's like, if I ever, you kind of come and you kind of wane. It's like, I haven't found a great game to really suck me in. God of War is always the one that like brings me back, and it's like, oh yeah, this is why video games are so good. It's stuff like this. So, and that happened again with Ragnarok.
Mine, predictable, given my last answer, is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Oh, sure.
Because it was such a foundational game. My brother is away at college now, but he came home in the summer, and just when we were together, specifically playing through like the levels that were in Lego Star Wars 1 and now being like so much more fleshed out. And also like when you're 5, you'll play anything and it's the coolest thing ever. But I specifically like, we played so many hours of this game that was clearly only designed to be played for like 10 hours maybe, and came up with all these theories of like, oh, maybe if you double jump here, you can get over the gate and unlock a second level, or oh, maybe if you do this, you can do that. And even just wanting to do things like, I don't know, maybe I want Qui-Gon Jinn to hold his lightsaber but not have it on, because I think that would be cool. And just like little things like that, it's like, oh, you can explore now. Oh, and I can turn off my lightsaber and still hold it, which is a thing I cared about for some reason. But yes, that was the big one.
Gosh, was that this year? That game?
That was April.
Jeez. All right.
I remember Nier Automata kind of blowing my mind when I played it. in 2017 for all the reasons everyone's talked about, being like, oh, where the story's going. I really like the final boss where it's jumping between the two characters at increasingly fast speeds. I thought that was really, really cool, and I remember being really impressed by that. I guess more recently, when I discovered the thing in Immortality that you're like, it doesn't tell you you're looking for, but eventually
spoilers,
you see it, or eventually you like figure out what you need to be doing in each scene. I remember it wasn't like a wonder moment, like the shot of dread and fear that shot through me when it happened for the first time was like profound. Like I remember being like genuinely like, that's up. Sorry.
Now I gotta censor and I gotta make a note.
Yeah, sorry about that one. But that was the only word to explain it. It was like, it got me. It got me. I was like, that's crazy. But it did not fill me with wonder. It filled me with, I want to jump out my window and run away from this game forever. But Nier Automata, I remember being like, this is wild. This is a wild thing. And then you find out he's been doing that for like 15 years throughout every game he's ever made. And it's like, okay, well, whatever.
All right, let's see. JHerb24 from Discord wants to know, how do you take your coffee? What's your Starbucks order?
Iced Americano, no cream, no sugar.
Did you used to work in a coffee shop, Blake?
Yeah, 5 years.
Okay.
Right up the road.
Okay.
Heine Brothers on Blankenbaker.
Gotcha. Okay, because I remember when you were an intern, I remember you telling me about that. Because I think I was asking you questions about iced coffee or something. I'm not the biggest coffee guy, but in the last couple of years, like I like just a nice iced coffee with milk. Kind of keep it simple. I have like a insatiable sweet tooth, but not with coffee. It's weird. I don't really like sweet coffee, but I will eat candy until I explode.
At Starbucks, I get the most basic drink, which is a tall caramel macchiato, which you could also use to describe me as a person. I'm a tall caramel macchiato. When I'm at home, I will just do black coffee, and then I have like French vanilla creamer with just like a little bit of that and no sugar. That's my... If I'm like out, if it's like an event, I want like a sweeter coffee, but if I'm just at home and I'm trying to survive and wake up, then it's close to black.
I do also a matcha iced tea from Starbucks. I'll get that too. That's fine. It's decent. They also wanted to know, JHerb, follow-up question, favorite indie game of the year so far. Tinykin for me. Really loved Tinykin. Took me by surprise. You guys have any?
Mine is Tunic. Tunic is... God of War might knock it out for me, but currently Tunic is my favorite game of the year because of the last puzzle, and not like spoiling anything about it, but similar like what Blake was talking about in Immortality, of realizing like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Like I had a moment like reading the manual in Tunic and like having this like revelation of like, oh my god, this is what this is. And that's like, it makes you feel smart. It's one of those, I don't know, I also didn't look up any guides for it. Like it was a thing where I struggled just enough that when I got the answer, it was so satisfying. That was just like one of my like best game experiences.
Yeah, mine would probably be Neon White, which I guess isn't really indie.
Well,
it's
yeah,
like aesthetically indie.
What is indie ultimately, right? But
well,
I
mean, if we're being holistic about it, then probably Immortality, even though that was published by Netflix on mobile, but
yeah,
one of those two games.
It's so funny to me, like whenever people talk about indie, like the sort of the genesis point is people will be like Journey, right? Like Journey, that is the defining indie experience.
That game made for
the
millions
game published
of dollars.
by Sony.
Yeah, that they've been very open about how many millions it cost.
Yeah, I mean, which is it does have that kind. There's something about it. There's an aesthetic. It's more an aesthetic than an actual like definition.
Cell shaded as indie.
Wind Waker is my favorite indie game.
So indie.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Just do a couple more of these. Lucas Adams from the Overblood Facebook group asked, having played through Elden Ring, Yakuza Like a Dragon, God of War Ragnarok this year, I feel like there's so many ways to do a side quest well, whether it's rewarding exploration, giving you a fun and unique minigame, or forming bonds with great characters. What do you believe makes the best side quests? It's a big question.
The ones I can easily ignore. I don't do side stuff in games. Don't.
What about even in Ragnarok? You didn't do side stuff? There's really good side stuff in Ragnarok.
Absolutely not.
You're missing like crucial character moments by skipping on. You didn't find the You didn't save the whale or the giant jellyfish in the sky?
I did do the jellyfish actually.
Yeah, that's side quest, man. That's good. That's
you know
good
what?
side
No,
questing.
you know what drives me crazy is when games force their side content on you.
Here, you know what? I'm writing this down for Blake has bad opinions next
Okay.
week. Blake
Great.
doesn't like side quests.
Great.
Let's just have a running doc of every time Blake says something someone doesn't like. Of like, I don't like what he said about oranges. Let's go in the document.
I love oranges. RGG games do this constantly where they're like force side quests on you. You'll be walking around and then it'll stop you and you'll hear that little guitar ditty and you're like, oh god, here we go. I gotta read through 9 hours of text just to be like, I'm not helping you.
Don't give it its own. If it needs its own separate tutorial, my eyes glaze over. Like if it's like there's a board game you can play in the middle of this RPG. I'm like, not for me. But like if there's actual like character moments, right? Because that's the best thing for me. Is like it's not necessarily like important to the story, but important to character building. If you can pull that off, then it's like, yeah, make it worth my time to do for sure.
I guess I did a bunch of the side stuff in Persona 5 Royal, so I like side stuff that gives me a sweet girlfriend. A sweet virtual girlfriend. That's maybe a bit problematic when you consider the age difference.
You have an answer for that, Charles? What makes a good side quest?
I agree with the character moments thing. I actually just did the whale thing in God of War this morning because I remember you had mentioned there was like a really early side quest that it's wild that people might miss, and I actually went back and did it, and just at the point I was at in the game, some things had changed, and I was surprised that like it was clear that if I had done it in the moment, some things would have been a little different than how it shook out when I was at there in the certain game.
I know exactly what you're saying. That's interesting. Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool
That they account for that, right? Yeah,
yes.
That's wild.
But also, I think it has to. I think there's different camps of this, right? Like I don't like really like delving into like an open world map and doing everything unless I'm like done with the game and I've decided I want more of it. Like there's games I'll go back and I want 100% it because I like it so much, but I'm usually just really into the story. So something I really like is in like the Spider-Man games where you're in between a mission. He's like, all right, I got like an hour to kill. Let me do something. Where like it doesn't feel like sometimes in God of War, it doesn't make sense to me that Kratos would not go and do this really important pressing thing he's doing right now and be like, actually, I'm going to go to this other realm and check out these birds. See how many birds I can hit with my axe. I don't care about these people that might die. That's always like a suspension of disbelief thing for me.
Yeah, it's a very video game thing. Cool. All right. Well, I asked for questions on various Game Informer platforms, so I'm going to rapid fire a bunch of these questions because since I was the one asking, they asked questions about me specifically. So this is Nick Rees from the Overblood group asked a bunch of things, and maybe you guys won't even know what I'm talking about. I don't know, but why did you use the van in the replay showdown? I used the van because I thought all the cars had the same stats, and I didn't think it would matter, so I thought it would be funny to use the van. What inspired the 6 Stunts series, and will it be returning? Unlocking the motorcycle in Breath of the Wild is what inspired that, and I like Donkey videos because he edits a bunch of funny bits together, and I wanted to do something like that where I edited a bunch of funny bits together, and that's how that started. Will it be returning? I'm open to it, but no, I don't have any plans. Can we get another Hilliard Yule log this year? No, I did the one. That one's fine. You can go track it down. It's just like it's on Game Informer's YouTube channel. It's like an hour of me in front of a fire. I don't want to do that again. You can just watch that one. Nick DiPaolo from the Overblood group on Facebook asks, what does it feel like having the Pokemon company still not acknowledge that they stole your likeness? Professor Mirror in new Pokemon Snap looks exactly like me, and I'm still waiting for a check. I don't know something got lost in the mail there. I don't know. It's frustrating, frankly. And then Lucas Harris from the Overblood group on Facebook asks, will we get a Shenmue 3 Super Replay eventually? I would only do it with Reiner, and I imagine he's very busy now, but who knows? Maybe someday. Maybe Reiner will come back and we'll play some Shenmue 3 together. And that's it. That's it for questions. You guys got any plugs? Plugs, Blake? Plugs, Charles?
There's some questions in here. These look good.
What are you talking
I'm
about?
in the
Where?
Game Informer Discord.
Oh, okay. We'll save them for next week. We got to wrap up.
These are for the replies, but I want to answer this one. This one looks good.
All right. Make it quick. Don't give me a Limp Bizkit
Okay.
monologue.
Sorry, JHerb24, who asked this for the reply section. Maybe you'll get multiple answers. Do any GI editors have a cover story they dream of writing? Isn't that a good question?
It is a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't skip that one. Kyle,
Oh, you want me to answer it?
I want us all to answer it.
Oh, Tears of the Kingdom, I guess.
Come on, dream bigger. That's like, there's a pretty good chance that might happen.
Oh, I like a Playdead cover. Whatever Playdead's working on next.
I don't know if we would. Playdead is like the upper echelon, I think, of indie we would consider.
It
for a
might,
cover,
maybe,
you know?
yeah. But yeah, to talk to them would be amazing.
I would want. I don't think I would get it, but Spider-Man 2, big Spider-Man fan. Just learning about that'd be so cool. Also, freaking, and again, I don't know if this hits cover story levels of public intrigue, but Earthblade is the next game that the Celeste people are making. I just want to
that'd be
know all
cool.
about that.
I don't know. I've turned down cover stories, so now to think of one I would want to write is hard.
I thought you had a pressing answer to this. And that was
I know,
why
you're the
you were
one.
like,
I
"We
was
got
trying to
it."
wrap up the podcast, and
I
you're
just
like,
liked the idea of the question.
What if we made a video game of Blake Hester has a bad opinion?
I wish we would do more covers that weren't previews. I know that's our business model, and we have to do it.
games that have already come out,
or
sort
just
of?
like we've done the VR thing. Cork did that PlayStation oral history. Those are the ones I would be really into. For a long time, I was chasing down a story about Rockstar New York, and I might revisit that, so I'm not going to say more about it. But that was one I wanted to do as a cover, where I was like, hey, what was it like in New York at this specific point in history? And that's not tied to the next hot thing. I wish we did more of that. I understand why we can't, or why we don't. We can, but I understand.
It would be interesting.
Things like that would be the cover stories I want to write, where we devote 20 pages to a pivotal thing in the industry or in the
a historically relevant moment in game.
Yeah, or
that
just
would be cool.
a report or something, like a deep dive. That would be cool. Those would be the ones I would want to do.
Well, Blake, you ceded your plugs time to a question
That's
that
fine.
you didn't even want to answer for some reason.
I did want to
What
answer it. I
happened there?
answered it. I gave my answer.
Follow Charles and I on Twitter, and Hive, I guess we're on there now too. We're not going to share the names. You just got to go track them down. Do your best.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
Follow me at Radmir on Twitter.
No, don't, because he wanted to ask about questions. I told you don't get a plug. All right, here we go. Let's see. Make sure to leave us a review wherever you review podcasts. You can also find us on Discord, and you can send questions to be read on this very show there, as we've proven today. And if you need some help joining that Discord community, our contact information is pretty readily available. Our email addresses are public. We'll help you out. You can send us an email, and we'll forward you to Alex or something like that. And speaking of Alex, he should be back next week. He'll get the podcast back on rails. He'll eliminate my weekly segments that I established. He'll clean it all up. He'll take care of it. But thank you so much for listening, and tune in next week. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.